Space is open to us now, and our eagerness to share its meaning is not governed by the efforts of others. Because whatever mankind must undertake, free men must fully share. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Friends, if you're like me, you're absurdly curious with what's going on with the GameStop stock, not just as someone who's looking at people making an absurd amount of money like deep value, now having over $22 million at the time of filming from an investment of about 50 grand. Because, hell yeah, I want in on that space cash cow, but also because you're intrigued, because as far as you remember, GameStop was a defunct, outmoded, inept game company that would trade you your stock holdings worth $22 million for 10, or if you're lucky, $10 plus 3% store credit. So when did GameStop go from being a meme of bankrupting you on game deals to being a meme of bankrupting billionaire hedge fund managers and making the memer a multimillionaire? I've just been so fascinated with this rocket trip ever since I heard the rumblings of what's been going on over on Reddit that I kind of needed to understand this for myself, because how the hell is any of this happening? I need to know what's going on here with GameStop. Not for getting rich, but for just trying to make sense of how people seeking tendies has turned into a modern day David versus Goliath story. So this video is going to be my attempt at trying to understand what the hell is going over at Wall Street Bets and GameStop, and bringing you all along so that hopefully we lay people might get a semblance of a notion of why the world just doesn't make any sense anymore. So just as a preface, none of this is financial advice. None of this is even advice. None of this might even be an accurate estimation of the picture that's happening. But let's go along and try to engage in this vain attempt at apophenia and find some sort of pattern going on here. So GameStop is a 37-year-old retail company that's primarily known for selling video games, video game consoles, and various video game accessories. Over the last few years, they've been on a steady decline of income from their traditional revenue model, thanks in part due to the rise in digital distribution from the game stores found on the consoles themselves. For a lot of people, downloading your game at home is just simpler and easier than trudging over to GameStop to buy one. Because of this, GameStop has undergone several restructurings, rounds of layoffs, and even reporting a $165 million loss due to closing their stores for COVID. So how do you go from a massive loss and temporary closing of 3,000 plus stores to a 34,000 plus % increase in your stock since last year and 800% increase since the beginning of 2021? So from what I gather, it comes down to a few fundamental stock trading concepts that are incredibly complex, but I'm going to just butcher them to explain them to you. Short selling and a squeeze. So Investopedia defines short selling as an investment or trading strategy that speculates on the decline in a stock or other security's price. Essentially, short selling would be like me taking your iPhone 12 straight from Apple, selling it to a friend of mine who's willing to pay for it, and hoping to make a profit because I can get a cheaper one for you off of Craigslist. I don't ever own the iPhone 12, and I only make money if I can find one cheaper than what I sold yours for, but I owe you an iPhone 12 at the end of the day, and I have to pay for that. Any analogy breaks down, but that's how I can make the quickest sense of it. Now, people might do this because they see that the stock should be trending downwards, so they're placing a bet that the stock will be worth less and therefore profit off the difference. And according to a lot of reports, GameStop's stock has been heavily shorted, one of the most shorted stocks in what's going on Wall Street right now. So a ton of people are betting that the stock won't be worth as much as it is right now, or as much as it was in the past when it was just at $8 and not $200, and that they can make money if the stock goes down in price, which on the surface kind of makes sense because GameStop kind of has been sucking as a business over the last few years, and digital distribution only looks to be increasing, especially with the pandemic, so a lot of people bet on GameStop losing value. Now, the next part is where the key play comes in. Plenty of stocks are shorted, so there's nothing special there, but the unique thing about GameStop at least how I understand it, is the amount of volume there is in it being shorted and the very few shares that are available to be shorted. This is leading to what is known as the short squeeze, which is defined as when a stock or other asset jumps sharply higher, forcing traders who had bet that its price would fall to buy it in order to forestall even greater losses. Their scramble to buy only adds to the upward pressure on the stock's price. So again, from how I understand it, in analogy form, there are only 100 iPhone 12s available. 90 are being sold to Apple employees first at a discount and the other 10 at retail. Everyone is lining up to get the 10 that are for sale. However, I have an in with a few Apple employees, so I'm confident I can grab a few at cheaper than retail and make a quick buck here. So I go to my friends and tell them that they don't have to wait in line. Just give me a deposit of $200 on the $700 phone, and I'll come back to you with an iPhone 12 at launch where you'll pay me the rest. We sign a legally binding contract, and we're good to go. I secure 50 deposits. Now I have 10 grand in cash, but no iPhones. Well, as it turns out, due to unforeseen circumstances at a factory, Apple is unable to deliver the employee iPhones on time and can only get out the 10 for retail. So now I have to go and convince the first guy waiting in line to sell me his iPhone because I'm contractually obligated to deliver one to my friend on launch day. He sees that I'm in a tight bind and agrees to sell it to me for $750, only $50 over retail. I have one phone now, but 49 orders left to fulfill and only 9 other people in line. The next guy in line sees that I was willing to pay $750 for the first one I bought, so he figures he can at least get $800 for his. I have no choice but to pay the $800, and I still have 48 left that I need to get. I go on down the line to the 10th person, pay her $1,200 for her iPhone. So now I have 10 iPhones, I've spent $9,750, and I have to go back to my first friend, who I owe a phone to, and deliver it to him on the contract that needs to be fulfilled. So that's one contract fulfilled after he pays me the remaining $500 on his balance. But I have 9 remaining phones, and I have 49 remaining contracts. So I have to buy it back from him, which means I pay whatever price he determines. And it just goes on like this down the line of the 50 contracts, constantly increasing the price because people realize I have no other option and I have to pay their demands because it's either I pay them or I pay the courts after getting sued or go completely bankrupt. Now, replace iPhones with GameStop shares, me with billionaire hedge fund managers, and my friends with the morons over at Wall Street Bets on Reddit, and that's kind of the general gist of what's going down. Billionaires bet that GameStop would fall apart. However, they overbet that it would, where most of the available shares, because not every share is available, some are there tied up in the executive leadership, some of them are tied up in institution, so there's only a certain amount of floating shares that can be traded. So Wall Street Bets saw that this was happening, realized that these hedge fund managers were over-shorted on GameStop and saw that there was money to be made, or that's known as tendies in their community. And they decided to buy up as many of the outstanding shares as they could. So this means that the billionaires who contractually have to purchase these shares on their short contracts at a specific date have to do so at whatever price the Wall Street Bets community decides they want to sell at, because the billionaires can't buy from anybody else because there's not enough shares available, and the ones that are available have already been shorted on. And if you stumbled across any of these posts on Reddit, you can see that there's a general sentiment of don't give in to these billionaires. Hold the line. Keep your shares, and the stock price can only go up because there aren't enough shares to go around for these fat cats who decided to gamble their fortune away. And honestly, it appears that's exactly what's happening. Again, this is as far as I understand it, but the only way this strategy works is if people decide not to sell. If an overwhelming majority of people decide to hold on to their stocks and demand that the amount for them caving be even higher, to the moon it is, to the yacht retirement, or to the cans of beans for the rest of my father's retirement life if it doesn't work out. This doesn't work if the community is splintered and a lot of them decide to break early because they can't tolerate the risk, or if they try to make as quick a buck as possible. If these shares go up for sale, the shorts can fulfill their contract at a lower price. And it kind of appears like Wall Street Bets has created a community of resilient individuals who are either too moronic to see that they should be selling or too ballsy to blink in the face of severe financial risk. A perfect perfect storm of intrepid crowdsourced stupidity to flip off the establishment for getting too lax at their own game, too used to the lack of actual resistance to think that they could be stopped. Some of this has led to calls of regulation to be implemented for market manipulation that's going on, but from Wall Street Bet's perspective, it's these money managers who are manipulating the market and trying to stop underordinary individuals from making a quick buck, while they, the money managers, are completely allowed to devastate the entire global financial sector and get golden parachutes when they get bailed out by the government. It's been fascinating to look into this community and find the sort of strength and resilience that you would tend to see from other organizations that are united in fighting various forms of systemic oppression. Wall Street Bet's enemy appears to be the short sellers, the entire financial system that's been rigged in the favor of billionaires. This is their Occupy Wall Street, but instead of physically squatting on the land, they're just holding on to useless GameStop shares and making it worth their entire future. It appears that there's an infinite money glitch in GameStop, with the cheat code being crowdsourced resilience on social media, and the controller is democratized finance apps like Robinhood. And again, this is just my interpretation of the story. It may not be any of this is as real as it appears. GameStop hitting $230 in after-hours trading when Elon Musk tweets "Game stonks" seems like an absurdity in the Matrix. And like any stock, it can absolutely go down to nothing. It's the same caution that I always gave when we discussed our crypto mining videos. Sure things aren't real. And the only thing that I'm sure of is that this is fascinating, and I can't wait to see how it ends. Does GameStop go to $420.69? $1,000? Does it go back down to $6 and all of these Wall Street Bet folks lose most of their life savings? Do the hedge fund managers end up bankrupting their institutions, believing that they're more powerful than some immature adolescents on the internet? Are there sweeping financial reform regulations brought on by the SEC to prevent this from happening in the future? Is all of the above story completely made up as a grand illusion to the internet at large, and it's really just billionaire hedge fund managers pretending to be broke internet fools on Reddit to dupe the everyman into holding their cash bag while they profit tremendously? I have no idea. I'm just following this rocket to the moon or to the ground. It's got one of two ways it's going. Now, while this video isn't sponsored, if you want to use my Robinhood link for trading stocks, I get a free stock, and you get a free stock if you use my link when you sign up, which is worth up to $500 potentially, the stock that you can get. So you use my link in the video description, and if you happen to be one of the people who's making a ton of cash on these GameStop shares, if you want to support SYNGAP Research Fund, which is the rare disease organization that's going to try to cure my son's rare disease that as of now only 700 people in the world have, you want to toss a few bucks their way, be tremendously grateful. You could potentially help cure my son's rare disease with your free money that you got from GameStop. I'd be happy to have that. But this is just me trying to break down what the hell's going on at GameStop. This is how I interpret it from all of the research that I've done, and I wanted to share that with anybody who would be listening. So if you appreciated this video, give it a like. If you think that it's not worth anything, give it a dislike. Get subscribed to UFD Tech for I don't even know anymore, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.